Cool, great. That's the difficult part. Everybody here? Great, well, thanks for coming along. And today I'm going to talk about Thebe. And Thebe is what to say, by the way. Yep. Yeah, sorry. Thebe is essentially a connector library for Jupyter. It allows you to add Jupyter interactivity into any web page. And over the last year, we've seen a whole bunch of development, which is sort of split apart the original monolithic Thebe bundle and then other sub-packages that makes it a lot more versatile, that allows it to be used in a lot different web contexts, not just on sort of static web pages. So, by the way, this presentation today is built with JupyterLab MyST and JupyterLab Deck extensions. If you'd like to try and build extensions like this directly, presentations like this directly in JupyterLab, check that out. In terms of running order, I'd like to spend the time introducing what Thebe is, but then having a good look at what Thebe can do, because it can do some quite different things, things that don't look anything like Jupyter. Before then, for the second half, diving into Thebe and the sub-packages, looking at a little bit of code and talking a bit about the APIs available there, and just wrapping up with what's happening right now and what's next on getting this release coming to happen. So Thebe's been around for a while, and you might have heard of it because of Jupyter experimental live code feature, and that's running sort of Thebe 8.x, and Thebe's operation is, I guess, very opinionated. That bundle, you add it to your page, and what it does is it will find code cells, so it'll find pre-blocks with this binary executable attribute on it, and turn those into code mirror editors. So this is a very simple demo that's up on GitHub pages, and this demo was actually set up to run Jupyter Lite. There's a bit of styling on here, but it's basically a static web page. And if you look down, we've got like an activate button, a status button, and we've got a big code block that's just sitting in a pre-block. So if I now want to activate, what that's done is that has scanned the web page, turned this now into a interactive code block. So we've got a full code mirror instance in here. So we can put in something in there that's Python. And I'm going to see error message when we execute it. Or we can just go ahead, fix that, and say run. And then it's going to run the code, and it is responsible for also attaching the outputs into your web page. So by default, Thebe will come along and attach outputs directly below the code block if it works. It is okay. It was just putting in wheels. I guess the Wi-Fi is slow, because to start with, the Jupyter instance is to put in some wheels for Wi-Fi widgets, etc. But then you have full sort of Python outputs, and this will support, I guess, a whole bunch of Jupyter-based outputs, including like Wi-Fi widgets that get loaded dynamically. So essentially, that's what Thebe is and what it has sort of always been. What's happened recently is that things have been changed to allow you to do a whole bunch of different things. So what else can Thebe 0.9 do? And one example is a scientific web application. So I'm going to play a video in a second. And this is some work we were doing with a group of researchers at the Doyle School of Sustainability at Stanford, who wanted to create an application to be able to get the lots of their research work out, but without exposing anybody to Jupyter Notebooks, even though all their research was done in Python and in Jupyter Notebooks. So we used Thebe in that project, and I'm just going to play this video. And what Thebe allowed us to do was to go and use a web application framework, and in this instance, Remix and React, to build a sort of GIS-led application that gave them the ability to, their users, their ability to go in, select areas in California, and pick up in the end an electromagnetic survey, pick up data from wells, ground water quality measurement, and decide, pick an area to go and do a simulation on. And then when they requested a simulation, that would go and talk to a Jupyter Hub, start up a Jupyter instance. And then the rest of the application used Thebe like this. And the application itself is powered by 5 notebooks that are maintained by the researchers. They update their notebooks, add them to the repo, and we're able to deploy updates easily for them. And then in the application, we're able to selectively run those notebooks in sequence and also just display selected outputs from those notebooks directly in the UI. So we don't expose any code, but every sort of cell of the Jupyter Notebook here is sort of Jupyter output. And you can see the TKDM progress bars going. And the whole point of the application was to deliver these research tools to the engineers in the sort of water department, but only in the form of UIs. So once they've done the data loading, which was the first notebook, the second notebook then presents a full iWidget-based UI to them that allows them to go in, interrogate data. So this was a really compelling way for the researchers to stay in Python, but deliver those research results out in a web application that could be used sort of in production as well, and not have to have anybody setting up a Python environment. So that's an example of embedding Jupyter in a very different web context to the way that for example, Jupyter Lab stack is built. Thebe uses a whole bunch of the Jupyter Lab stack behind the scenes, but you don't have to build a Luminar application in order to be able to use it. Okay? So great. And some of the things built in there was like switching between pages, refreshing the browser page, or even coming back after the fact to start the session up if you sort of moved away from the computer for an hour. As long as that the Jupyter instance was running, the front end is able just to regain the session and reconnect. So for example, browsing back to this view, you can still see the computer servers available, and you can go and resume a workflow, and you can build all the application features around something which is based on Jupyter, and then delivering a very different form. So it's one of the things very different from how Thebe has been used in the past. It's possible now that we have these sort of core sub-packages available. Cool. Now the second thing that I wanted to show was interactive publications with MyST, and Franklin showed a little bit of this talk, and this in his talk this morning. But in case you didn't see that, what we have here is a publication. So this is a paper by Rowan on DC electromagnetics. And this paper is entirely published in the combination of MyST Markdown and Jupyter Notebooks. So this MyST Markdown document at the front is it is the full scientific paper, and then the rest of these items here are notebooks. Now in the MyST format, we have Thebe enable, and we just sort of add a key to the MyST configuration bar to say Thebe true to add this power button. And once we do, I'll just go to this one, then we're able to connect to an instance. And in this instance, we're connecting to a local Jupyter server on this machine, but that can equally be binder. Or if you do a little bit more of the bundle, that could equally be a Jupyter hub. If I press play on this, it executes all the notebook cells. And in this instance, we can see the entire notebook here, and then that adds outputs in and activates the iWidget to make possible this interactive plot. And so, and then we can change the settings. And after plot update, I think this one, things are a bit more visible. In terms of the figure changing. Cool. So then we're like Rose said, like Frank said, we're able to embed compute directly in these publications and hook them up to the Jupyter file. Equally, by just changing the format to Thebe Lite, we come in at a PR that adds a Thebe Lite here as well. And then provided you have all your dependencies available, then you would be able to do this completely in browser too. Okay, so that's two very different, I guess, applications of Thebe. So I just want to dive a bit deeper into Thebe and its packages. So, like I said, the current Thebe release that's marked as latest is 8.2, and that's the sort of big JS browser bundle. It bundles jQuery and it also bundles Core Mirror, and it's going to do opinionated things on the web page. It's going to try and scan the DOM and change CRE tags and things. So version 0.9 was a big refactor to separate out, to create a headless core library, and then take put the functionality that was in the original Thebe back on top of that. So that looks something like this. So there's now a package that you can install called Thebe Core. That's pure TypeScript. So you're able to bring that package in via npm and use that in any TypeScript or any TypeScript system where it's Angular, Vue, or React. Sitting on top of that is Thebe, so we still publish the browser bundle. It's easy to add to a single page. And we also now provide Thebe React, which is a set of React wrappers around Thebe Core, making it easy to put that into a React application. So Thebe Lite sits off a little bit to the side, and it's an extension library. So at the moment, you can add Thebe Lite to any of these by just sideloading it onto your page. So just get the script on page, and then you basically just request the server to connect to Jupyter Lite, and that will then flip and do everything in browser. And I'll show another demo of that. Great. So Thebe on static web pages. So this is just like the original use case, and it's as simple as this. Or this is probably the minimal working example. You just pull in the script, and traditionally it will just pull that in from unpackage. And you also pull in the styles. Thebe has minimal styles, but also bundles in a bunch of the Jupyter Lab styles and a bunch of iPy widget styles as well, so that all the widgets and outputs will appear however you expect. And then you provide the config on page using this identify script tag here. And the simplest way is to say use binder true, and that will go out to the public binder servers with the default and start that up, and then you'll be executing Thebe against that. And like I said, there's various demo applications available in the repo. So if you go to the Thebe repo, the best way to get started is to go in the apps folder and look at these 3 different demos. And on the simple demo, which is the one we saw just earlier, with Jupyter Lite, if I scroll down to the bottom of the page here, there's a table which links off to all the sort of basic examples. So I have a local server running here, so this should work as well. So these examples have been set up to be just very minimal. With no styling, if I view page source, you can see this is a really brief example. This just shows you the bare basics of how to get Thebe up and running. And in the different circumstances, it's exposing you to a bunch of the different settings available that allows you to customize where it can go and look for different compute services. So for here, for example, this is running against my local Jupyter instance rather than Jupyter Lite. And for Jupyter Lite, up over there, press after hit there and on there. I should do the same thing again. It takes a little bit for the wheels to load. We'll come back to that. And then, so for activating Jupyter Lite, it's as simple as saying use binder false, use Jupyter Lite true. Once you've also just come in and loaded the Thebe Lite min package. So as soon as that's on page, doing that setting there allows you to, and it'll pick the Jupyter Lite kernel. Now, Thebe Lite also exposes the Jupyter config data. So this is the same way that Jupyter Lab loads and Jupyter Notebooks loads config data from the page, and that allows you to adjust any of the Jupyter Lite plugin settings, because that'll just be pushed straight into the Jupyter Lite server when it starts. So that gives you quite a lot of control. And like for here, we're telling it to go out and look online for the wheels, for pip light and the file type kernel, because I don't want to host those locally. So there's actually some interface settings that you can go and do there. So that's the good starting place for if you want to get started doing these things on Jupyter Lite themselves. Sorry, on static web pages themselves. Is go off and check the simple demos. Okay, so just flip back to the presentation. Okay, so we already talked about Jupyter compiled by Thebe Lite. One thing to notice is when you're working with that there is a service worker involved. Jupyter Lite automatically installs a service worker in your page. So if you notice any weird effects, like you can't get rid of a page or something's not updating, it's because this is doing some pretty aggressive caching, and there's a service worker behind the scenes. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Okay, so talk a bit about Thebe and web applications. So going beyond the sort of static page usage, and Thebe core basically provides a whole bunch of runtime objects for you. So in Thebe core and TypeScript, you've got objects to represent a server and a session, and they basically hold a session manager and an internal connection, and have some convenience functions to help you manage those. There are 3D cells and 3D notebooks, which again is also, they're packed with like convenience functions, so it's possible to bring in, to create a 3D notebook from just a collection of source strings or from an IPyNB file. And that gives you, it also gives you a nice easy way to index into the notebook, even if it's code cells and notebook cells intertwined. And there's also a Thebe events object, which mirrors the sort of original jQuery events API. And that allows you, gives you a callback based way to get a whole of messages that come back in the kernel, which would otherwise be happening with signals, etc. There's no more to that, but go and see there's some growing docs on the Thebe list tools site that go into a lot more details on the core API. After that, Thebe React is a small package, but provides a bunch of key providers and hooks, making it really easy to get started with Thebe. So you put this sort of hierarchical structure into place on your React site. So you have a core provider that can asynchronously load your libraries, then a server provider, a session provider, and then your page content. And then at this scope level there, you're able to go and use various hooks to be able to bring in notebooks, assign, and execute those, etc., and get the contents of your page. I'm just going to show one more demo here, which is the React demo that is in the React demo that is in the repo. So this demo actually picks up, based on this simple swag, one or two notebooks from the build, from the sort of apps demo folder on the repo. So this one, widget test, you can see it's a notebook that's got a couple of boring setup code cells, and then it's got 3 cells that produce IPy widgets. If I come over here and just press connect and run, that's running against a local Jupyter instance. And you'll notice that with no code cells on the page, there's no notebook on this page, but we are able to add the outputs alone on the page, and they all sort of work, the widgets all work as if expected. And the reason I'm able to do that is through the tag system. So by default, the Thebe notebook object, you can set it just to be able to show widgets. So this cell is tagged with widget. I take that off, and resave the notebook. Come over here, let's refresh that. Hi. It's probably building it. Refresh again. Right, well, one output now. Now it's already picking up that one output cell tagged as widget. So this means, so this is one of the convenience methods on the Thebe notebook that just makes it really easy to sample and pick out of a very complex notebook the one or two key outputs that you want to get into your application. And equally, if I just switch that to Thebe Lite, we can easily swap out the sort of kernel, and instead of hitting my local instance now, this will be hitting, setting up the Jupyter Lite server, and now this is all running in browser. So that's just a couple of the features that the CD Call API provides. There's more, including code input interpolation. So for example, if I come back here and decide I'm going to have my const equal to 1, and then leave a comment and say that as a parameter, which is very similar to, I think, you get in Colab. Notebooks has an interface where you can define a preprocessor that takes care of all that processing, allowing you to get variables into the notebook that is untimed. Okay. So that's an overview of what you can do with CD Call. Right, and there's a summary. So Thebe can add Jupyter interactivity to stack web pages. It can still do that in the new release as well, and it's had a few upgrades in that regard as well. But now we have the CD Core and Thebe React sub packages that allow us to use that headless connector far more flexibly. And we've got the CD Lite packages that now can be dropped in. That's currently, it's all powered by Jupyter Lite, but it's currently limited to the pilot Lite further. But that is something that we can expand in future releases. In terms of activity right now, Thebe 0.9 is sort of a release candidate, and we're really looking for people to help test that and use. We get to back on that main bundle available, as well as the sub packages are all released and also should be probably considered release candidates that are definitely ready to just use and play. Great. And that's everything. And all right.
Thanks a lot, Steve. We have time for a few questions.
Here, I need like in here.
Like it was Kelly. It's great to talk. Maybe two questions. You can pick whichever one you want. Is it possible to switch the Thebe config live? So if I start in Thebe with a light kernel and decide I want to add to a regular one, then the second question is similar. Is it possible to use the tag system to show and hide notebook cells for different applications? So a single notebook, but maybe multiple views of it.
The live switching, yes. The live switching, yes. It's your responsibility to dispose.
Okay.
So is it? But yes.
Okay, please.
And the second one, new tag system, you can definitely hide individual cells.
Multiple views of it. So same notebook, but one has the code cell, and the other one does.
Right, I haven't done that. So I don't think